Hey folks, this is Double RPG here, and I just want to say welcome to this special video that I'm doing, where I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the latest Final Fantasy XVI trailer that released on YouTube not too long ago. Now, I know there are plenty of people who already done a breakdown of the Final Fantasy XVI Dominance trailer, such as Final Fantasy Union, and I'm pretty sure that Maximilian Dude has or has not, but I'm not entirely sure, so don't quote me wrong on that. But I decided to come out and do one of my own. And I figured, you know, since Final Fantasy XVI is coming out next year, and with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out in next winter, not this winter, since Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion is coming out this winter, I figured that, you know, it is a good time to be a Final Fantasy fan with big releases. And with Final Fantasy XVI being the big release, the first big release to come next year, and then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth afterwards, we might as well go ahead and get started with the whole trailer analysis or trailer analyzing of what Square Enix is showing. So for the Final Fantasy XVI Dominance trailer, we're going to be watching it all the way through. It's a 3-minute trailer, and after we watch all of it, we're going to rewatch it again, and then we're going to make stops upon certain points within the trailer that will show off, you know, certain details within the cutscenes, or even just gameplay elements alone, and all that good stuff. Now, granted, I might not be able to get all or everything accounted for, so if there is something that I'm missing, you can leave a comment in the description, but this is not going to be like identifying everything at 100%. So it's, you see, this is just the first time me doing this, and I'm gonna probably stumble a lot, like what I did in my ranking video or the tier list I made of all the mainline Final Fantasy games, so just bear with me. So anyway, as I said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to watch the trailer first, and then after we get done with watching the trailer first, then we'll rewatch the trailer, and then we'll make stops during the trailer, so that way we can identify all the pieces within the cutscenes and the gameplay and all that other good stuff, and what elements that they are using. So let's go ahead and get started, and I put the volume down to about close to 50%, so that way you could still hear my voice, but, you know, when I watched it a little bit, I may need to turn it down to about a third, so that way you can still hear the trailer, but still hear me in the process. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And you'll see the cursor, too, when I point out to specific parts within the trailer with what is all shown. So let's go ahead and get started. Likely mature, 17 plus. In a world ruled by tyranny and turmoil, there are those who would fight to take back control of their fate. Good tagline to start off with.
What are the dominants? The power we wield. It wears away at our very being. It breaks us. It unmakes us. That its immaculate aspect might reveal itself.
With this new trailer over the first one we got in September 2020, this is definitely a big improvement.
Us closer to disaster. We must move now.
The chaos he would wreak would sweep all of Valisthea into the abyss.
So Valisthea is either the name of the world or the continent they are on.
I unite the dominants, that we may bring an end to the strife, and found a new order to see us unto tomorrow. If I take the field, our duel will shake the island to its foundations.
Kaiju battles!
Losses, it is true. Yet for every citizen who falls, another can be bred. For every home that burns, another can be built. The Empire will live on.
And there is the logo. Looks really good.
Awaken, child of fate. Awaken, Efreet.
Summer of next year. So yeah, that is a lot to digest from what was shown in that trailer, all right there. And I know it was definitely a lot to digest for me, but for all of you, I'm certain that you all felt the same. Now, as I said, we're going to be watching this trailer, but we're going to be making once we're watching it, we're going to be making pauses while we watch the trailer, and we'll give some insight on some little tidbits, maybe a little bit of Easter eggs of what is being all shown in the trailer, but who knows. But we'll try to get as much of it done as we can, but hopefully it won't even take too long since this is a 3-minute trailer, but I'm sure there's a lot that we can talk about. So let's go ahead and get started. So, now let's take a look at the tagline right here. So, with the tagline of what is shown at the beginning, that is, or at the beginning of the trailer, that is what the build-up to the whole story is. So there is an empire that's ruled by tyranny and turmoil, so it does seem to be taking a bit of inspiration from Final Fantasy II when it comes to the Palamecian Empire, with it ruling over the game's world. And you know, with the world in this game being waged by bloodshed and war, it is going to be pretty obvious that there's going to be those who would fight to take back control of their fate, just like what it says in the tagline. But I'm not sure if there's going to be a rebellion that's going to be involved in going up against this empire, but it is hard to tell at this point. But I imagine there will be, but I would say that most of the focus is going to be on the main character, whose name is Clive Rossfield, by the way. So, anyway, let's continue.
Who are we?
And we got our first glimpse of one of the... I think that's one of the people who forged a covenant with the Icon. So I think this one forged a covenant with Garuda, if I'm not mistaken. Or it could be Garuda itself, the Icon, just looking at the image, but I could be mistaken on that as well.
What are the...
And we can tell right there that is Titan. And I would assume that the thing that we're looking at with Titan and Garuda by far is all done with a pre-rendered movie, but I could be mistaken if it's actually real gameplay. But you know, for the level of detail, it looks really damn decent. I mean, just take a look at all like all the glows of yellow to represent the power of Earth coming from within this icon itself.
Dominance. The power...
Okay, so that was the person who becomes the icon. So you can see that the bearer, or the I guess, you know, if it's falling in lines with Naruto with the Jinchuriki, or being the hosts of the Tailed Beast, you could say that these people are the hosts of the icon. So this icon host is transforming into Garuda as of right now.
We wield. It wears away.
Okay, you just saw there, it looked like, you know, looks like the aura that came... at first I thought it was the aura that was coming out of Garuda, but... I mean, I didn't think it was the aura coming out of Garuda at first, because I honestly thought it would have been like Garuda's DNA or something like that, based on that structure of what we saw in that little bit, which I'll show you once again. So let's... Yeah, because if you take a look right here, it definitely looks like it's Garuda's DNA, or just looks like her cells, basically, just from looking at this. But no, because if you keep going, it just shows that it goes to Garuda right there, and you can just see that Garuda has now fully transformed and has the power of wind at her side, and you can just see just how fierce and very malevolent that this being is. I mean, of course, all the icons, or the Eidolons as they call them in the franchise, which the Eidolons are called the icons in this game, much like Final Fantasy XIV, where they were either called the Primals or the Icons. But yeah.
It breaks us.
Okay, and right there is Efreet, of course. And Efreet, you can definitely see he's sporting a lot of detail with his design. And I would say that most of these designs on the icons are mainly a throwback to Final Fantasy XIV Online, since Naoki Yoshida or Yoshi-P had a hand with the, bringing about the game since A Realm Reborn to bring about better detail within the entire experience, aside from other things. But yeah, you can definitely see that the icons bear some resemblance to how they were designed in the MMO, the most recent MMO that we see for the overall franchise. And that right there is Bahamut, which I'm really surprised with the design for Bahamut. You can definitely see that it has more of a draconic appearance that seems more organic and natural as opposed to what Bahamut looked like in past games. I mean, not to say that Bahamut looked organic and natural by any means, but just this one seems a bit more realistic, raw, and dark based on this design.
Immaculate aspect might reveal itself. The icon.
And you can see Titan is there in combat, and you can see all the soldiers being attacked by, I would assume, the earthquake ability that Titan can unleash at full power.
There's going to be another war.
And right there is Clive Rossfield, the main character, and that would be his adopted sister based on material what was talked about when the first trailer was shown, because Clive does have a little brother who lost his life, and he has an adopted sister with him too, so he definitely does have a family on him.
Isn't there?
And you can tell that the voice cast for this game is definitely Square Enix or Naoki Yoshida using the same voice talent agency that they used for Final Fantasy XIV Online since Heavensward. Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward, where they have most of the cast talk in British voiceovers, or European voiceovers, rather. So there's a lot more European dialects within the character voices and all.
Every day.
Now, this character right here, with the way how he's dressed up, now it's not even sure if his character, the way how he's dressed up, is going to reflect towards a job class that he has. He could be either a Templar for the Empire, or based on the getup, what he currently has, he probably will be a red mage of some sort. So I assume that some characters are going to be dressed in their proper attire with what one would expect in a Final Fantasy game, since, it is going back to that high fantasy setting for this installment. So it is possible that he is a red mage.
Delay brings us closer to this.
Okay, now we got ourselves a little bit of the combat right here, and as you can see, Clive is definitely doing battle with an Imperial Lancer, which is this right here. So the Imperial Lancer, I assume, is going to be one of the regular enemies in this game. Now, you can definitely see there's all sorts of things going on within this battle sequence. It definitely does sport more of a cinematic approach with the battle sequences, although there are instances where the gameplay is going to be in real time, where it doesn't reflect itself being too cinematic, like how the characters in Final Fantasy XV were battling enemies in random battles just fine. So yeah, this game definitely seems to be sporting more of a cinematic approach, but in a good way, mind you. Now, you can definitely see the character level, which is right here, where he's at level 18, and his hit points. Now, one of the things you may notice that is not there is a magic points gauge. Now, I'm not sure if the magic points gauge, or the MP gauge, is going to be there somewhat, but from first impressions of what's going on in this fight, it doesn't look like Clive has the ability to use magic as of yet, or maybe magic is going to be implemented sometime later on in the game, but who knows? Or he won't be able to use magic to its full potential until he has forged a covenant with the other icons that are, or the Eidolons that are available in this game, because you can definitely see the one that's right here. I would assume that's with his beak. Right here, I'm not sure if that's in relation to Phoenix, which I'm going to assume it is, because that's the only icon that resembles the mythological bird amongst this trailer. because you could definitely see the one below it is green, and I mean the background is green, so we can definitely assume right there that's Garuda. And when you push the L2 button, you will switch between which powers of the icon you have, because with their powers, it's going to reflect what abilities that Clive will have on him when he's fighting against enemies. And there are certain perks at the top. Now, I'm not sure what they equate to as of this yet, but we can definitely see an item bag, so I'm going to assume that you can select these perks during real-time gameplay, because I definitely see a sword, which means you can fight, and I think the one right here is meaning that you can dodge. The clock right here is in wait time, which I assume you can go into like the menu and do all sorts of things, like, you know, certain abilities and magic spells, but it's hard to say. The item bag, you can select what items you want to use during conflict, and I assume the dog print either means it means either you will be able to run away from a conflict, or you will have a dog partner with you at all times, because if you remember in the first trailer, there was a dog that was shown in that trailer. Now, it's not even sure whether or not if that dog was just there for show in the cutscene, or if it's, you know, or if that paw print right there on the perks actually gives any sort of meaning. But it's hard to say at this point, you know, since it definitely does leave a lot to be desired. But anyway, I think I already made my point of what's going on with this scene, so let's go ahead and continue.
We must move now.
Okay, you can definitely see that the guy right there on his white chocobo, and that right there is Clive Rossfield's brother, little brother, and he's riding on a traditional yellow one. And you can definitely see that the chocobos are wearing, you know, armor around them, so it does give that chivalrous, high fantasy look to everything that's going on within the setting of this game. So, yeah. Anyway, go on. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the gameplay right here. So you can see that Clive is now at level 13, and his hit points are down to 1150. Now, if there's something that you're wondering what's going on, you can see that none of the icons appear on the left here. Now, I'm not sure if the icons are dormant within Clive at this point to where he doesn't have full access to them, because I assume he's going to gain full access to them at some point. And, you know, going back to the perks, you can definitely see that the item slot menu right there is going to be reflected with the D-pad, because when you can use certain items with the press of a button on the D-pad, you can actually have Clive use that item. And if you take a look at the right here, if you push the R2 button, it will give you all sorts of abilities that you can actually use for Clive, because I assume that he will be able to do weak attacks, just attacking with just his sword, kind of like what Cloud and his friends do in Final Fantasy VII, or his comrades do in Final Fantasy VII Remake, to where you can attack with, you know, different with just traditional weak melee-based attacks, but then you were given all sorts of abilities to where you can actually use them to do stronger damage. Now, I'm not sure if Final Fantasy XVI is taking some inspiration for that when it comes to using the R2 button, because that does give you a shortcut to the access of abilities that are right here. And the precision dodge ability, which I assume is actually going to benefit somewhat to Clive's combat ability, to where he doesn't even take damage from enemies, because the more the precision his combat is, the more damage I think he does to his opponents, or the more experience points and rewards that he gains from winning in every fight. But like I said, it's still too early to tell, but let's keep going. And you can see right here where it says burst shot, that is definitely one of the abilities that Clive can do. And then you can definitely see that there's the lunge ability, which I assume that this game is also taking some inspiration from Final Fantasy XIII when it comes to the different types of abilities that each and every character can use when, you know, they're either automatically picked for the character or when you pick them during combat. But you can definitely see that Clive is definitely going to have some different types of abilities that he can actually use against his opponents. So not everything is just going to be him just swinging his sword away, because there's going to be some different types of attacks that he's going to be using on his enemies. See, right here, the Iconic Strike. The Will Break and the Iconic Strike. The Iconic Strike, I assume, is in relation to Phoenix Shift, which is right here. or any of these abilities that are right there as well, because the Iconic Strike, I assume, is going to be doing a lot of damage to his opponents, which you can actually see there's 670 hit points of damage onto the enemy. So, yeah, it definitely seems like they are going for more, taking some inspiration from Final Fantasy VII Remake when it comes to its combat, and where the abilities actually do stronger damage than just the traditional melee-based strikes. But then you saw one where it says that the ability gave off 368 points of damage. Now, I'm not sure if it being highlighted in yellow means that it's a weak attack, or if it's an attack that the enemy can be resistant towards. Because if it is a weak attack, if it's an attack that actually does really strong damage to the enemy, then you would imagine it would be in red, but kind of hard to say.
The Chaosi would reap with sweet ball of Valisthea into the abyss.
Valisthea. Yeah, that's the name of the world. Okay, now we're getting some more gameplay elements here. Now, one of the new things that you will actually notice in the gameplay here is that there is a 3-bar gauge right here, or a bar gauge that has 3 different tier slots right here. So it's kind of like the tech point gauge in Final Fantasy XIV Online, and it would make sense since Yoshi-P was part of that game. And I assume that the development team would have wanted to have certain elements in that game be applied toward Final Fantasy XVI. So I would assume that the tech points are not going to act as limit breaks per se, but once you fill them up, then it will help you do the some of the stronger abilities from the icons or something. But it's hard to say at this point. Like I said, a lot of these things, they're really hard to say because it's hard to comprehend how the whole gameplay system is going to go in this game. But also, you can take a look at the top left here that the Icon Titan is there with us. So I would assume that within the game that Clive is going to be coming into contact with the hosts of the icons, and when he defeats them, then he's going to be bestowed the icon for himself, so that way he can actually take advantage of their powers. Because if you take a look at the scene right here, you can definitely see that the icons here, the powers of the icons, they are all different from each other, because you can definitely see that there are there are like Talon strikes from Garuda that's going on right here, and you can see the aura from the icon being protruded out of Clive in this combat sequence. And then right here, he switches over to Titan, and you can definitely see that there is a huge fist, meaning he's going to be doing an earth-based attack on his opponent, which you can see right here. Yeah, just like that. So there's definitely going to be some AoE attacks that's going to be involved when using the abilities of the icons in this game, because you can definitely see that there's a lot of damage coming around that's just all around Clive when it comes to fighting off against his enemies. So yeah, there's not going to be just attacks on only one enemy, but there's also going to be those that are going to be towards enemies that are close within him, so the area of effect, basically. And you can definitely see that the abilities right here shows it shows that Clive is using the upheaval ability, and that upheaval ability probably means where it says times 6, times 5, times 4, and times 3, meaning the number of enemies that he has hit, or it could be the strength of the ability, what the strength of the ability is after hitting all those enemies at once, because I assume that more of the enemies that get hit by the upheaval ability, or any ability in the game, that is going to reflect how strong of the attack it's going to be, but I could be mistaken. Now here we have him at levels 26, and you can definitely see all the bar gauges are right here. And now we definitely see that Odin has a bar gauge of his own, because if we take a look right here, you can see that Clive has selected Odin for himself, and then the ones underneath him are Shiva and Rama. So let's take a look at what else is all going on here before we talk about anything else going on in this scene. Okay, so with all the attacks that are going on right here, you can definitely see that that Clive is definitely attacking the enemy, where I think he's using the Gungnir spear as a traditional, like, ethereal weapon instead of just a sword. And you can definitely see that the ability is protruding like 13 points of damage every time when he strikes the enemy. Now, I'm not sure if the times 1.2 means the amount of damage he can do to the enemy at this time, but I assume that depending on how Clive's combat skills are with, you know, dodging enemies and hitting attacks on them, that it's going to strengthen up his attacks with the icon. And with the attacks coming from Clive onto the enemy, you can definitely see that the Odin gauge right here is definitely building up. Now, I assume that's going to be used to build up amongst one of the enemy, or one of the abilities that's going to be right here, but who knows. And of course, there's going to be some lewdness, it seems, but I assume that they would keep things censored if they are going to stick with a T rating, but if they are going to go for an M rating, then that is definitely a big push for that type of age rating that they're going for in this game, but who knows. It's like this game is taking some inspiration from Game of Thrones when it comes to the narrative aspect.
Unite the dominance.
Okay, if you take a look right here, it says Diamond Dust, and you see that Clive is actually using the icon Shiva's abilities. So the Diamond Dust ability he's using against the Coeurl right here, he can actually use it for himself. So he does gain some abilities, or some of the icon's abilities that he can use for himself, but they're going to be much weaker in comparison because he cannot grasp the full power of the strong attacks coming from the icons.
That we may bring an end.
But it is going to be very beneficial to him when he's going up against enemies, like how he used the Diamond Dust on the Coeurl right there. It's going to be very beneficial for him to actually get the advantage when attacking this enemy, so that way the enemy doesn't even attack him. But who knows?
Strife, and found a new order to see us.
And there's a deadly chain and a deadly takedown, and you can see right here that he switched over to Phoenix. So I assume that switching the different types of icons is going to bring about like a combo gauge system, kind of like what Devil May Cry did, because you can see that the game, for Square Enix, they definitely hired the battle director from Devil May Cry 5 to be the battle director of this game. So there's going to be some of that influence where changing the different icons is like how Dante, Nero, and Virgil can switch between the different weapons in that game, as well as V. But then again, V didn't really have a large arsenal of weapons, but for Dante and Virgil at least, yeah, they can actually use all sorts of weapons just to switch between them in order to pull off some very effective combos. And you can definitely see that the war-ravaging battles are all bloody and brutal, so yeah, it definitely seems like this game is pushing more for that M rating, but I'll be surprised if they actually keep it at the teen rating, because, you know, Final Fantasy games since Final Fantasy VII at least have always had a teen rating, so yeah, it wouldn't really surprise me at all if they stuck to the teen rating, but if they did go for an M rating, I'd be like, wow. Now we take a look at this big hulking man right here, and for this big hulking man that is right there, we can definitely see that he is going to be the icon, or the host for the icon Titan. And they do show that a little bit in the trailer, just a little bit after this. And I guess he goes by the name of Hugo Kupka, or a Kupka. I guess that's what his name is. As you can see that some of the glow that's coming from Titan is actually protruding within this man, because you can definitely see that Clive is fighting him right now, and I assume that him slaying Hugo here is probably what's going to give him the power to use Titan to his fullest, or for him to forge a covenant with Titan.
To its foundations.
Okay, so after the slash of that, then that's when we see the icons come to life here, and we do see their cinematic appearance of what's all going on here. But that will lead to the next gameplay element. And that next gameplay element is kaiju fighting. Because if you look at what all is going on within the scene right here, you can see that the Hellfire ability is being protruded by the Icon of Fire, or Efreet. Now, I assume that they called Efreet the Icon of Fire right here because they don't, I guess it's showing that it's still at the beginning of the story, to where we don't know what the name of the icon is. But if you follow Final Fantasy throughout all the years, you can definitely see that it is Efreet right here. And you can see that he's going to be using his Hellfire ability on the Phoenix to fully finish it off. Now, I don't know why that's the case when going up against Phoenix, because with Phoenix being the icon of rebirth, he uses his... the Phoenix uses the flames to revive certain things, so I'm not sure if this fire coming from Efreet is going to have really strong and impending damage onto the Phoenix, but who knows? Yeah, because as you just saw right there, the Phoenix got instantly obliterated. And let's go ahead and look right here. So yeah, it's trapping it with the Hellfire ability, and then after that, you can see that the Phoenix is, you can see that the life bar here is going to take down the Phoenix all the way through. So I assume that the icons are going to be able to use their signature abilities when they're very close to dying, because that would make sense, because it's like in Final Fantasy X with how much damage that the Aeons take when they're in battle. Then they'll be able to use their signature abilities through the overdrive system. So I assume that's what's going to be happening in this game as well, to where when the icons are down to a certain percentage, or at least below 25% of hit points left, then they will be able to use their signature abilities. But it's too early to tell, but let's continue. And here we definitely see what Titan looks like all up close and personal, and yeah, you can definitely see that Titan is definitely, sporting a more grungy and more just scary appearance, just based on how he's being portrayed in this. And you can definitely see that his eyes are glowing red to give it a more mean and menacing look. Now, Titan definitely does come off being a mean and menacing Eidolon throughout the franchise's history, but this one really takes the cake with how he looks when it comes to his expression that's being delivered. Okay, so here we have Efreet right here going up against this Eidolon, which I don't know who we are fighting against, because you could definitely see that there's 3 question marks right there on the name of the icon. Now, I'm not sure if it's in relation to an icon that hasn't been announced yet, or will have a very big importance throughout the story, but we are not sure what the name of this icon is at this time. It could be Bahamut, but I could be mistaken. And just from looking at it, it's really hard to say. I mean, it kind of looks like Titan, but you can definitely see that what Titan looks like, his mugshot right here, is totally different from the one that we're actually seeing right here. And with Efreet using the Hellfire ability on this icon here, you can definitely see that a huge chunk of damage is being hit onto the enemy. Now the enemy, or onto the other icon, and you can definitely see that the icons are definitely going to have like kaiju type damage, like how strong of damage that Godzilla does, or how strong of damage that King Ghidorah does, if you are interested in tokusatsu and all that. Not tokusatsu, but just daikaiju type of stuff. So yeah, the attacks are definitely going to be portrayed as just otherworldly, just godly, insane amounts of damage. Okay, and that right there, that is Rama right here, and I guess he's using his Judgment Bolt ability right here. And then we have Shiva using the Diamond Dust ability, which I assume that the Liquid Flame enemy that's right here, I assume the Liquid Flame is what's going to be connected towards Shiva, because as you can see, we don't even have Shiva's icon in selection for what Clive can use at this point in time. So I assume the Liquid Flame is going to be directly related to Shiva right here, because we don't have full access, because he doesn't have full access to her yet. And that was kind of hard to say right there, because you definitely see the Diamond Dust ability going on, and you know, based on everything that's going on right there. And you can definitely see that no damage was being taken on to Clive when he is in the Phoenix state. Okay, now we go into the next battle with Efreet versus Garuda. And yeah, you can definitely see that more of the battle is going to have more of a cinematic approach like most of the rest of the game is. But yeah. So I assume that when they are at a certain percentage of their health when within the battle, that some cinematic elements are going to be taking place within the fight. Which makes sense because, you know, with Final Fantasy games having a very cinematic nature to their stories and to the battles and everything, and the gameplay and the boss fights, it would only make sense that, you know, that this is going to happen within this fight between these two icons. And you can definitely see that Garuda's ability that she used on Efreet did over 35,000 points of damage. And it may not seem like it's much, but it definitely did take a bit of a chunk out of his health. Now, I assume that each icon is going to have their own set of hit points, but yeah, I would assume that at this point that they're going to be able to level up as well, or the way how Clive levels up, it's going to reflect how many hit points and what the statistics are going to be for every icon that he uses within battle. And then we have Bahamut using his Mega Flare right there, and then there's Odin, that's right there.
It is true. Yet for every citizen who falls, another can be bred.
Okay, so we definitely get a good look at what Bahamut's portrait is going to be. That's right here. And all the icons that we saw going on in these scenes, they were all done through cinematic sequences, so there's really not any gameplay involved when Clive is going up against any of the other icons or any of the enemies that he comes across, so yeah. So it just definitely shows you more of the prowess that these Phantom Beasts are going to bring about within the game. And if you take a look at the Mega Flare ability, it definitely does give off that feeling with how Bahamut used those little sparks of flares to attack or kind of, you know, do some area of effect damage or AoE damage towards a certain part of the ground. Then after he charges up his flare, he shoots it, and that's going to be like ground zero to where everything is just going to get majorly devastated in that fight. So that was just like a bit of the just a little bit of the appetizer for his full attack, you know, what was going on with that ability right there.
Another can be built.
And I assume that this guy right here, with the way how he's talking, you know, how every life is taken, another will be reborn, and how every town is destroyed, another can be rebuilt. And then he says that the
Empire will live on.
And how he says the Empire will live on. That definitely gives you the indication right here that this man is definitely going to be the main antagonist in this game. So he definitely does give off vibes of the Emperor from Final Fantasy II, with how tyrannical and just overpowering and just sadistic and inhuman that this guy is going to become. So you can definitely see that there is some influence from Final Fantasy II in this game. And with the main Final Fantasy theme being played at the end of this trailer, you can definitely hear the choir saying the names of the icons, because you heard them say Phoenix first and then Titan, and then they'll say the rest. And with the meaning of this logo right here, the meaning of the logo with how Efreet is going up against Phoenix, that is going to be the main focal point of this game, because every Final Fantasy game, when you take a look at the logo stings, they always will have some sort of relevance to the plot of this of their respective stories. And with this game, with how icons can fight each other, that's going to be like the main fulcrum, or the main point of what the game is establishing, or what it's trying to present within itself. I mean, there's other meanings too, but you can definitely see just looking at the two that are right here on the logo sting, or the title logo sting right here, that that's pretty much going to be the basis of what Final Fantasy XVI is going to be about, aside from the Ravaging Wars and all that.
Awaken, child of faith.
Now, somebody's saying, awaken, child of faith, so I assume that, you know, with Clive, at the beginning of the game, that he was just a normal man, but seeing as how he's hell-bent on revenge because of what happened to his brother during the prologue, he took Efreet for himself, I assume, because I think that his brother, Clive's brother, was the pact maker or the host for Efreet, and he actually took it for himself so he can actually use it for revenge against those who had actually, you know, who actually used his brother. But still, the story, the pieces of the story are still quite scarce at this point, but it leaves a lot to be desired, like, you know, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's trailer, but, you know.
Awaken, Efreet.
Now, if you take a look right there, you could, it definitely looks like Efreet was right there. Yeah, it looks like Efreet right there. But if you take a look right here, it looks like it's another Efreet. Now, I'm not sure if there's going to be people who, you know, who have forged pacts with the icons themselves, but it would be very interesting if that is the case. That more people can just wield an icon for themselves, wield the same icon for themselves instead of just one single person alone. I mean, it's kind of like how summoners can wield the Eidolons for themselves instead of just one particular one. It says summer of 2023, and with that is the end of the trailer. So, yeah, looking at everything in the trailer, that definitely was a lot to ingest within the combat. Now, there probably are a lot more questions that do need to be answered, and I imagine that we will be getting another trailer, but probably at the Game Awards this December, so that way we actually get some more information dumped onto us to where we can actually see what's all going on within those trailers. But just based with everything of what's going on in this trailer alone, yeah, I think we're going to be in for a ride when it comes out next summer. And with all that said, done and out of the way, I think that will wrap up what I have to talk about within this trailer. So I hope you all like what it is that you saw, and I hope you like me doing my analysis of this trailer. And like I said, if there was anything that I missed, you could definitely leave them in the comments. And with me being with me doing this as a first, I didn't expect me to actually, go through this trailer all the way through and try to get everything pinpointed accurately as possible. But hey, there could be some things that I have missed. But hey, it's only natural that I miss some things. But, you know, if there is something that I did miss, then definitely leave your comments in the comments section below. So in the meantime, guys, if you like what you see, then be sure to hit that subscribe button underneath this video so that way you get notified of whenever I will have a new video up for you all. And be sure to follow me at Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, where my handle is at RRPGReviews. And you will get all the updates from me through social media and with me going live on Twitch as well as YouTube, since I stream on both that and YouTube via Restream. So be on the lookout for whatever streams I have coming up in the future. So anyway, guys, I have to get going, so I hope you all enjoyed this video, like I said, and be on the lookout for me possibly doing more of this. And if you like what you see, then be sure to comment in this video saying you want me to do more analyzing trailers like this that are in relation to Final Fantasy games in general. So anyway, guys, take care of yourselves, and I will see you on the next video, whatever I decide to make. So until then, this is RRPG signing off by saying Godspeed and game on, gamers. Have a good one.